In this video, I'll be talking about personal finance and cars. And honestly, mostly we're going to focus on cars, but people will take loans, installment loans for other types of things like a bed perhaps. Some of these beds are like $2,000 or $3,000 and people pay them back using an installment loan. But again, we're going to focus on cars. In America, we love our cars. I don't know about you, but I remember when I was 16 and I bought my first car, and I was really proud because I saved up hard and worked hard to get that car, and it was a Plymouth Duster. I even got it painted, so it was looking pretty fancy. But if you ever seen one of those Plymouth Dusters, they weren't very well made cars. In fact, I remember going around turns and feeling like my car was just going to roll over. It was just so back heavy, in the bottom there. But anyway, all to say, I love that car because, what you learn when you first start driving is you just experience freedom like never before. And it's also an amazing responsibility, but just an exciting thing to buy your first car. But anyway, let's look at this formula here. It says loan payment formula for fixed installment loans. Car loans and other personal loans, which are normally repaid with monthly payments, are called fixed installment loans. The regular monthly payment amount, which we call the PMT, or repayment, required to repay a loan of P dollars paid N times per year over T years at an annual rate R is given by, and so we have this formula here for to figure out the payment. And it has all the same letters that we're used to working with. The main thing is N represents the number of times that we're making the payment per year, which is going to be 12. It's kind of rare that it wouldn't be 12 because most people make payments on a monthly basis. And then the P, though, is, notice here, it's the loan amount. And so it's very similar to what we've done before, except for those two things. So let's go ahead and look at example 1. It says comparing car loans. Suppose that you decide to borrow $20,000 for a new car. It's probably not the greatest car, a smaller car maybe. You can select one of the following loans, each requiring regular monthly payments. So you have installment loan A, which is a 3-year loan at 7%, and you have installment loan B, which is a 5-year loan at 9%. So let's go ahead and look at these. So let's look at loan A up here. Our payment is going to equal P, which is $20,000, that's how much we're borrowing, times the interest rate divided by 12, that's how many times we're paying the loan per year. And then in the denominator we have 1 minus, and then it's 1 plus 0.07 divided by, again, 12 to the minus nt power. And that is correct, it is negative. So it'll be negative n is 12 and t is 3. And when you plug this into your calculator, you get $618. Wow, that's a pretty hefty sum to have to pay every month for a car. And that's just paying your monthly payment. That doesn't include any gas or anything. All right, well, let's look at loan B, and we'll look at the total interest in just a minute. So for loan B, everything's going to be the same, except when you get to the interest rate, it won't be 0.07 over 12. It'll be 0.09 over 12. And the same thing in the denominator, we're going to have 1 minus parenthesis 1 plus 0.09 over 12. And that's to the negative 12 times 5 power. Remember, the number of years now is 5. And so here you get $415. $415. So you can see you're saving some money by paying over 5 years. But let's look at this a little bit closer. All right, so we want to look at the total interest that we're paying for each of these loans. And honestly, I don't think most people do that when they get loans. If you did, you might make some different decisions. Let's go ahead and look at this. The total interest for loan A, Well, if we're paying $618 a month, and we're going to do that, so 12 times a year, and that's for 3 years, then we're paying a total of $22,248. And so the loan amount was $20,000. So if you subtract those, you get $2,248, and that's what you're paying in interest. All right, so for a 3-year loan, that's your cost to borrow $20,000. All right, let's look at loan B. So here your total interest is going to be, this time you're paying $415 per month, 12 times a year, so times 12, and this is for 5 years, and so this time you're paying $24,900. And so if your loan was only for $20,000, when we subtract $20,000, you can see that you're paying $4,900 in interest over those 5 years. That's almost $1,000 a year. So that's something to think about. Is it worth it to get the longer loan when you're paying, so much? The thing is, that $618 payment is the problem. Maybe that's more than you can afford. But if you're paying that $415, you're definitely paying some big time interest over those 5 years. So it says to compare the monthly payments and total interest for the two loans in Part C here. And think about that. I would encourage you to look at those numbers. So here's how I summarized it. The payments for the 5-year loan are about $200 less per month, but the interest paid over the loan period more than doubles. And so that's what you have to weigh if you're looking at these two loans. All right, let's go on to the next page. So this example is saving money with a used car. So, I think this is one of the big things that students that graduate from college sometimes do. That's not such a great idea. You just graduated, you work so hard, and you get that first job, and you're like, man, I want to get a brand new car. I deserve this. I earned this. And you're probably right as far as, you're certainly deserving of it. But you might want to look at the numbers a little more closely. Buying a brand new car is a luxury. Those suckers, you drive them off the parking lot and they drop as much as 20% in value just by driving them off the parking lot. So all to say, we're going to go ahead and look at a comparison here. And let's see, so we've got these two options. We've got the new car option. The new car is $25,000 and can be financed with a 4-year loan at 7.9%. The good news, we talked about interest rates, trying to get a decent interest rate for saving. When it comes to borrowing, especially for a car, the interest rates are really low right now, especially if you have a good credit rating. Your credit's good. 7.9% is actually pretty high. Of course, right now you'll see some people are going 0% for 4 or 5 years. The used car option here, it says a 3-year-old model of the same car costs $14,000 and can be financed with the 4-year loan at 8.45%. So we're supposed to find the difference in monthly payments between financing the new car and financing the used car. All right, so let's go ahead and see what we can do here. So for the new car, our payment, let's see, it's $25,000, that's our loan amount, times the interest rate, 0.079 as a decimal, over 12, all over 1 minus, in parentheses, 1 plus 0.079, divide 12 to the negative 12 times 4 power, and you get $609. Okay, so again, that's a pretty hefty chunk of change to pay each month for your car payment. And again, that doesn't count gas, that doesn't count insurance, there's other costs of having a car. How about the used car? Your payment is $14,000, and it's 0.0845, that's our interest rate, divided by 12, that's our N here, over 1 minus, in parentheses, 1 plus 0.0845 over 12 again, to the negative 12 times 4. Again, in both of these loans, it's for 4 years. And this time you get $345. So not quite half, a little bit more than half of the other loan. Now, here's the thing, we could also look at how much we're paying in interest for the loans. It didn't ask us to do that, but the bottom line is it could come down to the 609 versus the 345. Can you afford to pay the 609? You're going to end up paying a lot less in interest, but again, that's a chunk of change. That's a lot of money. So I do have another comment here. Normally when you go in to buy a car, you've got some money to pay for a down payment. And if you're paying nothing down, you're probably not ready to go buy a car. Now, maybe you just got out of the military and actually, if you did that, you should have some money socked away. All to say, normally you should have something to put down. And if you're not putting anything down, then you probably have pretty good credit, or somebody that does is co-signing for you. All right. So, it does say to find the difference, and the difference is $264. All right, let's move on. So now we're going to look at the cost of gasoline. That can be a significant cost for a car. In fact, in Texas, boy, we love our trucks here in Texas, and those suckers can really put away a lot of gallons of gas. So let's go ahead and look at this example. Now, you'll notice that we're going to be looking at a price of $4 per gallon. Now, maybe in California it might be that much right now, or New York or some of those kinds of places, but I don't think so. Prices are pretty low right now, but things are things are not normal right now. So let's just go with 4 here, and we'll call this price in one of those states where their prices are high. So the annual fuel expense, that's basically how much you're spending on gas each year, is the number of miles that you drive divided by the miles per gallon. And that tells you basically how many gallons of gas you're using, and then multiply that by the price per gallon. So in example 3, it says, suppose you drive 24,000 miles per year and gas averages $4 per gallon. Again, you live in California. What will you save in annual fuel expenses by owning a hybrid car averaging 50 miles per gallon rather than an SUV, which is averaging 12 miles per gallon? Well, let's go ahead and look at the numbers. So for the hybrid, the annual fuel expense is going to be 24,000 divided by the miles per gallon. That's 50. By the way, that's about 480 gallons of gas that's being used each year, times 4, and so you're paying $1,920 for that gas each year. Well, let's look at the SUV. So the annual fuel expense for the SUV is going to be 24,000 divided by 12. Now that's actually 2,000 gallons per year. And when you multiply by 4, that's $8,000. Again, that's a lot of money. I don't know about you, but I don't particularly want to spend $8,000 for gas each year. It's one of those expenses that we don't realize just how much we're paying. So that's a significant cost for gas. Now, let's look at our difference here. Basically, the savings, let's see, that's what we're supposed to find, is 8,000 minus 1,920. So we're saving $6,080 per year. Now, let's see what we could do with that money. That's what we're going to look at in Part B. If you deposit your monthly fuel savings at the end of each month into an annuity that pays 7.3% compounded monthly, how much will you have saved at the end of 6 years? So you'd have to go back to our annuity formulas, and so I'll help you out here. So our annual savings is $6,080, and our monthly savings, well, we just need to divide that by 12, and when you do that, you get $506 and about 67 cents. So we're just going to round up to 507. We can always throw in an extra 33 pennies. All right, so our formula, if you look back at the annuity formulas, is this one here. So remember, P is basically how much we're putting into this account each month, and A is our future value. And so let's go ahead and plug in the numbers. So 507 is our monthly amount that we're paying or saving, and then it'll be times, in parentheses, 1 plus 0.073 over n, which is 12, to the nt power. That would be 12 times 6. Remember, it's 6 years, and our n is still 12. Everything's monthly. And minus 1, and that's our numerator. In the denominator, we have r over n, which is 0.073 over 12. And so we end up with $45,634. Whoa, that's a real chunk of change. So here's the bottom line. If you can, this is why people buy cars that get better gas mileage. You can save yourself a lot of money, especially if you're one of those people that travel a long distance to go to school or work. So you can use your big old truck around the house, but you don't really ideally want to do that as far as driving back and forth from work if you're traveling a lot of miles. So you can see we save significant money here. All right, I want to go on to auto insurance. So I'm just going to run through some of the basics. You'll see questions on this in the homework. These are things that you should know about. So when you purchase insurance, you buy protection against loss associated with unexpected events. Same thing's true with life insurance. When buying auto insurance, there are different types of coverage that you should be familiar with. The one required by nearly every state is liability. There are two components of liability coverage. So these are the minimums. So you have bodily injury liability. If you're at fault in a car accident that injures another person, bodily injury liability coverage helps pay for their medical expenses and lost income as a result of their injuries. This coverage may also help pay for your legal fees if you're taken to court over an accident. Now, property damage liability, if you're at fault in a car accident, this coverage helps to pay for damage to someone else's car or property up to the policy's limits. It will also cover damage you may cause to structures and stationary objects, hopefully that's not the case, such as a building or a lamppost. So this is basically the insurance you're buying to cover your butt if you cause an accident. Now, you've got to be careful if you're ever involved in an accident, because you don't want to just necessarily jump or accept full responsibility for the accident. In fact, the other person may at least have some partial blame, and legally, you got to be careful with that kind of thing. All right, collision coverage, that's what you buy that covers damage or loss of your car if you're in an accident. And so if you buy a new car, you're required to have collision coverage, because the people that sold you that car, they want to make sure that you're going to pay off the loan. Or I should say, the people that are giving you the loan, they want to make sure that car stays in good condition and that it's got the value that it's supposed to have. And then finally, we have comprehensive coverage, which protects your car from perils such as fire, theft, falling objects, acts of nature, and collision with an animal. Now, sometimes people have separate insurance for this, but it's windshield insurance, and that's one that we're all probably pretty familiar with. That's an example of something that would be covered under a comprehensive coverage plan. All right, so there is a video here that I mentioned that gives you a nice introduction to this with a little more detail. All right, and that's it for this video.